Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to talk about real estate investing. So put on your hats, especially if you want to know about short-term rentals, because this guy is crushing it. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. All right, so let's start. Where's your accent from, man? That is a very unique accent.
God. We're going there already. I'm from Long Island, New York.
Mm.
I'm born and raised in Long Island, New York. I'm a true New Yorker.
Yeah.
And I've been out in Vegas 13 years.
Okay. All right. So you went from East Coast to Nevada, where you guys are at now. What brought that journey before we even get into deals?
I came here on vacation to visit a friend when I was 22, and I never left.
Never left. Got it.
I wish
All
there
right.
was a more crazier story to that, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's a good story though, man. So, all right, talk to us about the game of real estate. Like, what does Jason do? If we were having coffee and someone's like, "Oh, hey, Jason, I'm a refrigerator salesman or whatever," and I go, "What do you do?" Because that's how guys introduce each other, right? Like, what do you do? What do you
So
do?
what the answer to that is I'm in real estate, and it's kind of a broad answer, but I do everything real estate. I always say everything real estate, everything Las Vegas, because I do everything here in Vegas. It seems like, but yeah, I'm a real estate agent, and I'm a big buy and hold investor here in town.
Got it. So everything real estate, Las Vegas, buy and hold. Talk to us about Las Vegas, right? So came from New York and you know, all the shiny lights and, Vegas and casinos and, slot machines and all this stuff. Like what was the thing that captured your mind to go, I want to build a bunch of business here. I want to build a bunch of real estate.
Well, I always say that there's so much action in the city.
Yeah.
I love action. I'm like an adrenaline junkie type of person. I love to go out. I love to meet people. I love to network. And in my opinion, this city is the mecca of networking. There's always hundreds of thousands of people coming here every single weekend. You could run into millionaires, billionaires, athletes in the hotels at any moment. And that really struck to me very early when I moved there. I moved here, sorry. And I just love this city. It's always evolving. Every time something gets a little stale in this city, it just boom, something else pops up. It's brand new. It's become into a sports mecca city now with the sports teams here. And I just totally fell in love with it.
Okay. So when you went there, did you have like an established business or did you go there and just kind of start from scratch? Let's build.
Dude, I was a teacher, man.
What?
I was an elementary school teacher. Yep. I didn't know anything about real estate. I had no money. I was 22. I graduated college, grad school, actually. I came out here and I answered a Craigslist ad, and I went to go teach at a school. I had no clue what was going on. I just wanted a job because I liked living in Las Vegas, and it evolved from that.
Yeah. All right. So elementary school. What age?
Kindergarten, man. I was a
Kindergarten.
kindergarten phys ed teacher. Yeah, I was a gym teacher. I did kindergarten through 8th grade.
Did you have the whistle and the short shorts?
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm like the buff gym teacher, like swinging the whistle. But I only did it for a year. I didn't love it. I really didn't like it. I knew I had like a lot more entrepreneurial in me,
Yeah.
and I started coaching lacrosse here, and through that network, I was able to lead into a career in real estate.
Got it. So you found that this wasn't for me. And I've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs, over 1,000 entrepreneurs and investors over the years of doing this. And that was a thing. It's like you get into a job and you're like, man, I just went through college and I've invested in this and I got the job and I don't like the job. Right. So they go,
Yeah.
I got to find the escape. An entrepreneur is a lot of times it's an escape, right? Like I got to find something better because I didn't like that. I can't imagine doing that for 40 years. So what did that look like? Coach lacrosse and it got you into real estate, but what did that look like?
It looked like you're right. I wasn't really happy. I think I felt that I was better than what I guess maybe my paychecks were showing.
Yeah.
And people out here, they hustle and they grind and they make good money in the hotel industry and the nightclub industry. And so I was able to network with a lot of the parents of the kids I was coaching. And a parent gave me an opportunity. He was like, you would be really good in this real estate industry. And he was a broker. And I knew nothing about real estate, and I kind of put it off for a little bit. And then I was like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. I'm so glad I did because I absolutely love it. I'm obsessed with my job, my career now. But, if I didn't meet that person, I don't know where I would have been. But it's like who you know at the right place at the right time. And it just worked out great.
Did you hang up the whistle, or are you still in education of some sort, maybe in the real estate world?
Yeah, I still coach because I love coaching, and sometimes you need to just put down your cell phone for 2 hours and yell at some kids and some refs and just blow some steam off. I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I kind of translated it to coaching real estate
Yeah.
because I think now I'm able to show people that you can do exactly what I did. And it's pretty cool because now I'm kind of educating more youth coaches. I'm like, you guys have the networks that you're going to need to build a real estate career. That's all
Yeah.
it is. It's just networking and having people who, if you do a good job, tell people about what you do. And that's how my career blossomed.
Yeah, man. So talk to us about the first deal you did, right? In real estate, you're like, I put this off for a little bit. The guy's like, come on, man, I'm a broker. You should figure out this real estate thing. Talk to us about your first deal.
So I bought my first house first. I did that about, I would say, 6 months before I got into real estate full time. But I remember that when I bought my house, I was like, this isn't so bad. Like I remember, like it's scary from the outside world of real estate and money and buying a house. So I bought my first house, and then a friend of mine saw that I bought my house, and when I got my license, he was like, "I want to buy a house." And so he trusted me, and we it was a simple purchase deal where he bought his first house, just like I did, and that was my first deal. I was thrown into the ocean, and then I was hooked ever since.
Got it. So talk to us about your first investment deal. So you bought your own house,
Yeah.
but now it says, here in the notes, you became one of the larger or largest, short-term rental guy in your area. How did that happen?
Yeah. So when I started doing real estate, my friends and family back home saw that I started doing this. And real estate where I'm from is so expensive back in New York. And
Yeah.
so my cousin Joe was like, look, why don't you go find us a rental property? And I was like, what do you mean rental property? I don't know what. He's like, just find the best area in Henderson there where you live, and we're gonna buy a house and we're gonna rent it. Like that simple. And I said, okay, here's a little 3-2. It was $250,000. And he's like, okay, we're gonna buy it. And so we split it. He put the loan in his name, and we split it. And now that home's worth $700,000. And we've just rented the crap out of it for 7 years. And it's not rocket science. We just bought a house and we rented it. So
Yeah.
that was my first investment that I did.
Since then, give us an idea of what you bought, how you've grown the portfolio.
Yeah. So since then, now she's like 6 years later, I own 27 houses.
How
And
old are you?
how old am I?
Yeah.
There's 35.
35 years
35.
old, 27 properties. That's really good. If you would have stayed the route of, you know, uh in stuck in the job, right? Like that you just didn't feel the best fit, right? For the educators out there, love you and such like that. But sometimes like for me, if I'm in a wrong fit for me, I get miserable. So like if we go side by side, if you would have stuck that out, where do you think your mindset would be? Where do you think you'd be?
I would be I call it the stuck in the mud division. And a lot of my friends are in this division where they're in this spot where they're in a job, they don't like it at all. And it's just basic income. They can't, whatever they do, they cannot make more than that set income. And so I see a lot of people fall into this. I don't know if I want to call it a trap, but we'll just call it they're stuck.
Yeah.
And I would be in that. I would still be in that division. I would be stuck where there's nothing you can do. You could be the best teacher on the planet, but there's a ceiling for it. You're
Yeah.
only going to make $75,000 a year in the city that I live in, no matter what. Yeah. Do you get a retirement? Yep. But I've made more money like in my first, I would say 4 years of real estate that I would have worked probably 20, 25 years as a teacher.
Hmm. So your eyes are open now, and you see this, and you say you actually coach other coaches, like, hey, you should be doing this, keep doing your thing, but you can, do your passion that you're like coaching, but you could be doing real estate on the side and building a portfolio. All right, so
Yeah.
let's just say I'm one of the coaches. I show up on the, what do you, lacrosse?
Yep. Lacrosse.
All right, I show up on the lacrosse thing, and I've got the short shorts and the whistle, and you're like, hey Josh, I got to chat with you. So we go out to coffee, and I'm like, man, I don't know about real estate, dude. I don't know if I have enough money, this and that, because I'm sure you've heard that, right?
Yeah. All the time. All the excuses, right? You hear
Yeah.
'em- I'm sure you hear them too.
Yeah,
I call them excuses, man, but go ahead.
yeah, but and we're having coffee or a cocktail or whatever, and like we built some trust where you could like slap me around a little bit, and you go, all right, Josh, here comes the hard truth. Go for it.
All right. So I'm actually doing this right now with one of my assistant coaches. Okay. So this is a great question.
Yeah.
And my one of my best friends, Jack, and he took over kind of my lacrosse business. And I'm like, look, this lacrosse business that we kind of built is good. It doesn't make a lot of money, but it's great of the networking portion. But now we're going to take advantage of that. And you're going to become a real estate agent on my team. And for the longest time, he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, dude, go take the freaking test. I'm telling you, you'll change your life in 3 years. If you could give me 3 years, I promise you this works. And so he finally did it. And so now we're in the process of he's going to be like probably my first example of taking another youth lacrosse coach.
Yeah.
And we're going to turn him into another real estate Mongol, where the best part about being a real estate agent is if you have a really good network and people trust you and like you will get business all day long. And you don't even have to do anything. You're just going about your day of coaching, and people will reciprocate your help to their kids with, hey, I want to pay this guy back a little bit. I'm going to use him to sell my house, or I'm going to use him to buy my house. So
Yeah.
I've seen great success in that.
I know nothing about lacrosse. I was a wrestler in high school, so I know
Okay.
shit about it, right? But like it's so brilliant when it comes to like you're doing something that you're good at. Were you good at lacrosse, I assume?
Yeah, I played and I loved it. I had a great experience with it. So yeah, I was good.
Yeah. So you go from that to you invest in the Utes, as you guys would say, over in New
Mhm.
York, and you're pouring into them, and then the parents go, "Hey, we want to, work with you too," and you're doing real estate. So it's just like this law of reciprocity by building an ecosystem, by serving
Yep.
people, and those kids can't do anything for you, but their
No,
parents,
no,
you
no.
know,
It's all about giving back. And if
yeah,
like I always say this, like if you give back, good things will come. And you're right. Like I just was going about my normal day. And I remember the first time it happened, I would say it was 6, 7 months into my first year. A parent pulled me aside. And he's like, "Hey, I got to move. We're moving. Would you mind listing my house?" Like he said, "Would you mind?" Like I was ecstatic.
please.
Yeah. And I was like, wow. That's when it hit me. I'm like, wow, people are going to use me. And so right now where I'm at is I have to kind of funnel away from coaching because my business is doing well. So I had to make a decision. Do I still do both, or do I pick one? So now I'm kind of transitioning into real estate, but I can tap into other people's networks by hiring these other coaches to work
Ah,
with me.
there you
And so
go.
that's what I'm doing now.
It's smart, man. It's really smart. As you're building out, you got 27 properties. Are they long-term rentals, short-term rentals? What's your portfolio look like?
So I have more long-term rentals. I have
Okay.
8 short-term rentals. So I have 19 long-term rentals. And I found that Henderson is a great rental market. I found that out very early. There's a huge demand for rentals here where I live. It's right here in my hometown. And then the city really exploded once the Golden Knights came and the Raiders came, and a lot of people from California moving here. And people want to rent. People are a little bit silly with their money here in town, Las Vegas. And so I've been able to take advantage of a really good business model of buying properties and renting them out. And then I kind of transformed it into vacation rentals. I mean, Vegas is like the number one tourist city in the world, and people are always coming here. So took the same model and just turned in with short term rentals.
Yeah. So I'm buying a house, right? And I'm working with you, and I go, hey Jason, I need some advice. I'm about to buy my first investment property, single, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, great rental market, and I'm debating short-term rental, long-term rental. Help me decide. How do you do that?
I always go the long-term rental route first because the short-term rental business, it's a lot more intricate. It's a lot more in depth and more expensive. But even a condo, I always tell people if you get your feet wet, buy a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom condo in the best location possible. So my model has always been to buy in a specific area in Henderson where the school that I coached at, it's zoned for that school because a lot of people want to rent in that area so their kid could go to the public high school because
Yep.
it's one of the better. The school districts here aren't that strong, but in this one particular part of Henderson, there's only one public high school. So everyone wants to go to Coronado High School. And so I just saw a demand like, hey, every tenant that I have, they're renting my place so their kid could go to that school.
Yeah.
And so I just took advantage of that.
Yeah. I mean, we're going through that right now where I live.
Where do you
I'm
live?
Oh, in Florida, a place called
Okay.
Ocala, right? So
Okay.
I'm buying a house based on a school district because I love the school that my kids go to. I
Yep.
would like to have a huge farm, walk out back, drink some coffee, see some goats or whatever like that. But I wouldn't be in the school district. So like I'm basing long-term decisions for my kids because I
Yep.
care about them. So that's such a good point. And I think a lot of time us investors, we miss those small details of a huge motivating factor. Me and my wife
Definitely.
care about our kids more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that all the time. People ask me all the hey, I need to move because I need my kids to go to the school. And again, you're helping people. You're kind of helping them out, and they really appreciate it when you rent one of your places to them. But they don't see it like you see it, where it's a business, and you're making really good profit and income off of having that kind of gem.
Yeah. When it comes to, investors, I'm working with you, I was a lacrosse coach with you and I got my real estate license and I've done a few deals. Now I'm ready to do my first investment property. And you're going, okay, start small, start like this, right? So you could get your
Mhm.
feet wet. And I'm like, Jason, I don't know if I want to deal with tenants, toilets, and late rents and such like that. Like these are, I don't want to deal with the headaches of it. Kind of guide me through what that looks like.
Well, you gotta get involved, man. Like I always say this all the time because like everyone wants to take the shortcut in life, especially now. And you can't. So if you're going to buy an investment property, I hear this all the time. This is such a good topic you brought up. I don't want to deal with it. Well, it's your house. Don't you want to take care of it? Don't you want to see who rents your house? Because if you don't, if you just give it to somebody to do it for you, they're not going to take care of it. So that's important that you make sure that you learn how to do this correctly. Because I see people, they buy one and then they fizzle out in a year. They're like, oh, it's too annoying. But if you do it the right way, you can make a lot of money. So I always say, if you're going to buy investment property, do it yourself. So you can learn what's going on and you'll see it's not rocket science. There'll be some bumps along the way, things will break, but you'll handle them and it'll be just fine.
Yeah. So we do our first one. We got we did a long-term investment. Now I'm like, oh, actually it's cash flowing. Like what kind of expectations, like do you think that investors getting started should kind of have? Like, hey, I'm only making a couple $100 a month or a couple grand. Like, is it worth all the risk? Is it worth all the work for $100, $200? What are your thoughts?
I always say that if you're getting somebody else to make the mortgage payment for you, that's a good win. Okay. Now we could go to step two, where if you're cash flowing greatly over that mortgage, now you're hitting a home run.
Mm,
So I use a lot of baseball analogies, like get the tenant in there, okay, because that's only part of it of when you're buying these investment properties to have somebody pay their rent and pay your mortgage. You're getting tax benefits too, and then you're getting the appreciation on top of that. So you're adding those three things together, and it's a real win. So I personally don't buy any rentals that don't cash flow. I'm greedy now at this point. But for people like in New York, where I'm from, New York has never cash flowed. They're just buying based on appreciation. So
mm.
when in this market that when I got started, I was hitting both, and people realized like, oh wow, this is an up and coming place, and so it worked really well for me.
Wow. This is such a mindset shift. I think everything in investing is a mindset shift. This is such a mindset shift because you're like, if you could just get someone to pay for an asset for you that's going to be valuable, then that's a win in itself. Because I think a lot of times, people will look at it and they're like, man, I could tie up my money and I'm not getting, let's just say it's not cash flowing.
Yep.
You put some reserve for replacements, you pay some bills, you get, the guy broke the fridge again or whatever the case may be. And you're like, I didn't cash flow at all, but they just paid a year of your mortgage.
Yeah.
That's valuable.
If you show people the amortization of the home and then the rent and how both, it's like your mortgage is going down and then that rent is going to be going up in the future. That's the hardest thing for people to understand because they're just thinking about it, but they don't see it on a board. They don't see it, like it doesn't click for them. But I see a lot of people, they have trouble giving their money away. And once you get over the fear of taking that money out of the bank account and realize that money's gone for a while,
Mhm.
you will be so much more successful. And I have that, I call it kind of a gift now, where that money, it doesn't hold any value to me in my bank account. That number doesn't make me feel excited. It's just a number. So, okay, 50 grand, it's going into that house. Now that house gets me excited. So it's definitely a mindset thing, like you said, but I see a lot of people, just normal people, where they're just afraid to take their money and put it into something and get the money down, a delayed gratification.
Yeah. Well, the fear of loss is more powerful than the promise of potential gain
Right.
until,
But if how many real estate investors, okay, I'm talking real investors,
yeah.
have lost over 20 years, 10 years?
Oh, oh gosh. In terms of real estate?
Yeah, they don't lose a lot because it's a very safe investment. Now you have to do it the right way though. You can't go buy crap boxes in bad areas where it's not. You have to do your homework and your due diligence. But if you look at the richest people in the world, like the Donald Trumps of the world, people like that, they just own real estate everywhere. They own real estate in Manhattan. They own golf. They just own everything. And over 50 years, it just appreciates. Have they hit some downturns along the way? Of course. But did they ever sell it? Nope. They just held on to real estate for the long term. And I'm just copying that model.
Yeah. How did you get over the I would call it like the scarcity model where, right? So you get your paycheck and you're like, oh my God, look how much the government took, look how much is left. Oh, this mine. And then it's just like, no, you need to take that money out of your hands and put it into an asset, right?
Yeah.
How did you convert to that?
My cousin Joe was really helpful with that. And he taught me, he's like, look, that money, money doesn't hold any emotional value. It should not hold any emotional value to you. It's just numbers. So you're taking those numbers and putting it into a hard asset that's going to make you more of those numbers.
Mm.
And so I got over that fear really quickly, and I'm glad I did because I see a lot of investors even, they're like, I just made this. I don't want to go reinvest it. And I'm like, well, look, you're going to make more money on that money. If it sits in your bank account, you're not going to make money. If you go buy a car, that's silly. So what else are you going to spend the money on? Like, I understand you need to live, and I live pretty frugally. I don't overextend, but any extra money that I make, I invest very aggressively.
Okay. So give us some tips. So you've been coaching me for a while. You're going to be like, all right, here's some things you need to learn. Here's where most investors go wrong when it comes to, building a rental portfolio. Like, here's where I went wrong. Here's where it cost me a lot of money. Josh, don't make these mistakes. Follow my lead.
Yeah. So right now, what I'm learning, I see a lot of people, they see like a $60,000 house in the Midwest, and they see that low price point and they think, oh, this is great because it's $60,000. But what they don't see is those houses are 80 years old. Those houses they're not an appreciating market. There's a lot of problems with those houses. So I see that for sure. What I would recommend is you need to find like the next Henderson. You need to do some research. You need to call around. You need to explore other places in the country because Henderson now is it's kind of tapped out. It's at a ceiling right now where you're not able to cash flow as much anymore. You're probably at a break even. So now I've had to do this too, where I'm looking at other places in the country. I'm looking for the next Henderson. And that's all this game is, right? And you forget how big the United States is. It's huge. There's a million cities in this country. And so you're just trying to find out what's the next good thing.
Got it. So when you're analyzing a property, right, and you're looking at it, you go, okay, $60,000 house, but cost of replacement, the AC, the how old the house is, the area, is it appreciating, is it not appreciating? So there's many different things that you look at. Do you have like a rule of thumb that you look at when analyzing a property to go right off the bat before I put a letter of intent, before I put a contract? Quick numbers, quick look. Do you have any rules of thumbs that you could share with us?
Yeah, my rule of thumb is this. Well, I hate construction. So if I'm scared of construction, I really am. I don't trust anyone in the construction world. I mean, you're in the business, right?
Yeah.
It's so true. So I look for rental ready properties, things that don't need a lot of work, and I make sure that it'll cash flow right away. So we'll do a simple deal here. If I find a $200,000 home, okay, and I put 20% down, that's 40 grand. All right. And let's just say my mortgage is around 1,100 bucks, all in taxes, insurance, everything. I'm going to look for that thing to cash flow around about 1,500 bucks. And that would make me feel super comfortable. Now I want to buy in an appreciating market. So I'm going to say, hey, look, I think in 5 years from now, that 200, I want it to be around 275, 300. And then as you get more experienced, like I am now, where I'm looking for deals. So I don't want to pay retail anymore. So I'm going to find these other wholesalers or try and find agents that will bring me good real estate deals. So I want that $200,000 house for 150. So I could buy that thing. I could refinance it if I want and set yourself up good down the line, because that's how you make money, is getting good on the buy, meaning that you're buying a really good real estate deal up front. That's where you make your money.
You make your money when you buy.
Yep.
Right? That is, you can hope for appreciation, and appreciation has proven itself pretty strong, right? I've been through I built a ton of investment homes in 2006, right? Right before the market crash.
Yeah.
So there are corrections, there are downturns, there are some, but if you look at real estate over time, it generally goes up.
Yeah.
And you're buying, oh, this is such a good question. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I wish I knew this a long time ago. $10 million homes versus a $200,000 3-bedroom, 2-bath family home. Like, if investment wise, I could hit a grand slam with a $10 million home.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
No, those are scary, right? I mean, because if things go wrong, which we've seen, what gets hit first? What gets hit first is the luxury, because those are only the 1%ers of the world that have money. So when you take away, remember, if real estate and stocks aren't doing good, those rich guys, those wealthy people, they're getting hit too. So my model has been entry-level homes up to right now, probably 500,000. I don't really go above that. And then on my short-term rentals, I get into the luxury a little bit because I just saw there was a big demand for bigger vacation rentals here in Henderson. So we built out the biggest one.
Super cool. So let's go short-term rental. It's a different game, right?
Very different.
You've got night. I mean, so some people get into the long-term rentals and they maybe want to start exploring it, right? What does that look like, converting from long-term to short-term? What kind of things do we need to look for?
So the analogy I use is that short-term rentals are long-term rentals just on steroids. So they're just a different animal. Like up front, people don't realize that it's very expensive to start the business. You're buying a business. So you're buying a house, then you have to furnish it. Okay. So when you're doing a long-term rental, you're leaving it empty. But furnishing a house is expensive. You have to make sure everything works, and then you have to stock the house with towels and pans and forks. Those things cost a lot of money. But if you could get it up and running, it will generate a lot more money than a long-term rental will.
So with a long-term, you said it's more of a business, right? Because you have to think of other things, right? Like furnishing it, making it look nice, but you also have to keep that sucker booked out on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Long-term, it's a one sale. Short-term, it's 40 of them.
Yeah, I use, it's like a hotel. You're buying a hotel, and there's a lot of turnover in your hotel. Things break. It's on overdrive. because I use the example in my house, I only use one shower and one toilet, right? But I have two or three other ones. And if I had 10 people constantly using all three bathrooms, 27 days out of the year, it's going to break a lot more and it's going to get a lot more usage. And so people forget about that. They just go, oh, this house is fine. I'm like, look, the bones of the house aren't really made for overdrive all the time. But that's what your house turns into when you have a bigger, more luxurious house. So there's a lot more issues with it.
So how do you prepare yourself as an investor for that? Because you guys have eight now. You
Yep.
probably learned a few things the hard way. What were some of the hard lessons with short-term rentals?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is the next door neighbors. Okay. It's something that's not talked about ever,
Never.
where because if your neighbor does not like what you're doing, they could make your life a living hell. They can complain, they could get you fines, they could call the cops on you, where it just drives you away from that house. So I've learned a lot where I got to make sure that my neighbors are cool with what I'm doing. That's
How do
step one.
how do you do that?
I knock on their door when I'm in escrow. And I say, look, I introduce myself. I'm a professional. I'm a property manager. I own a lot of rentals. This is my business. This is what I'm going to be doing here. If you have a problem with it, tell me now, and I won't buy the house. And that's the biggest challenge of the business up front, is making sure that where you buy this thing, that it's one, allowed from the city, and then two, making sure that your neighbors are super cool with it, because there's going to be a lot of people and traffic going in and out of this house. And some
Yeah.
people in the neighborhood are not going to like that.
Yeah. And you got to think it's going to be bachelor parties. It's going to be, someone we rented a house on the beach for my cousin's 40th birthday coming up. We're going to have 10 guys in that house,
Right. It's
right?
going to get a little wild. And that's okay. Right. But the, you need to, so I, to kind of rebuttal that my like, how do you fix this, is I try to buy houses around no neighbors.
Yeah. Hey, that's smart.
You gotta push it out to like more of a one neighbor, or kind of where it's secluded a little bit.
Yeah. So these are things that you've learned the hard way because you've got the phone calls, you've gotten the cops knocking on the door going, "Ah, man, here's another issue." What other issues have you found? Because we're going to talk opportunity of short-term rentals, but
Yeah.
what other issues can you find? So this thing's a hotel, man. It's constantly turnover, high usage. So like things break. So buy good quality crap,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The things definitely break. The I would say the biggest challenge has been trying to work with, so I have my short-term rentals, I hire a property management company. And so they run the business for me.
Yeah.
And you don't get to see the day-to-day operations of what they're doing. And there's a lot of expenses that kind of gobble up your profit. So that's the hard part, to understand, like, why are they spending money on these things? Why did they send out this person that's more expensive than my person? But then you got to realize, like, look, they're doing the day-to-day operations for you. If you were doing it, yes, you would make more money, but it would be taking away from all my other businesses. And that's the opportunity to make way more money. So that's my biggest challenge now, is kind of figuring out a happy medium of what's the best way I could profit with the least amount of effort and net the most.
What is your highest and best use of your time?
Right now, it's acquiring properties. That is, I have a talent with that. And I realized this about 6 months ago, where I'm like, okay, I'm stopping everything I'm doing. I'm not going to be doing a lot more paperwork and stuff like that. I am going to be on Facebook and on phone calls and Zooms, and I'm going to just try and acquire properties as much as possible. And it works. Agent outreach, you name it, I do it. And now I open up my email and there's 5 to 7 opportunities every single day. And that's the hardest part of the business, is buying these things, figuring out where they are to find the good deals. But now I have that kind of dialed in, and that's where you make the money.
So your focus and highest and best use is acquisitions. Like you like that's the best thing.
That's
What
the
did it
best thing for
look
sure.
like when you started to peel away the things that aren't acquisition focused? Like how did that feel? What did that look like? What were some of your challenges?
Well, I was so scared to hire somebody to help me. And I hired my assistant 3 years ago, and she changed my business because she handles those day-to-day things,
Yeah.
filling out the paperwork, dealing with the closings, all those things. Because those are tedious, brutal stuff that nobody
Yeah.
really talks about. And they take time. But it's so worth it to pay somebody else, because now you're just running your machine of trying to acquire more properties, and you have help. You have a person to help. And so now what I'm doing is trying to build a really cool team around me, so that I can, one, teach and kind of change some lives of, look, we're going to buy a lot of real estate together. We're going to figure this out. And you could get so much more done with other people. But it's so hard to
So hard.
rely. It's so hard to just rely. But even if they do it like half as good, it's still worth it.
Half as good on a low, I don't want to say low value action, but half as good on cleaning the floor is better than me doing it perfect and me keeping my eyes off of deal making.
What, 100%. And I'm like such an anal guy where I have to have my thing on my hand on every single little thing. But I'm learning that just let it go. It's okay.
My buddy just wrote a book, but he talks about like where stress comes from, and he's talking about stresses is unclosed loops, right? So if we see things and we're like, oh, I got to do that, I got to do that, I got to do that, that's stress. When we have people to do those things, it starts relieving stress. We just have to weigh as entrepreneurs, and I'm learning this and as an investor, is my energy and my focus on highest values better than the money for those stresses. It's just a number. What you said
Yes.
earlier, I get so attached to the money in my bank account. I get so attached. How do we advise us, buddy, as a deal maker, as an investor, as a guy who's growing? How do you keep yourself from going back to that emotional attachment to money?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think it's confidence, man. Like, I am super confident now in this business. Like, I think I'm very good at what I do. Sometimes I'm maybe a little too overconfident, but when I let go of money, I'm just very confident I'm going to make it again. And if you are in that same mindset, like if I go spend $50,000 today, I'm going to go grind to go make that back as fast as possible. Because once you see that bank account drop, I'm sure you felt this too. You're like, oh, like that stung, right? You're like,
Yeah.
shh, and then you're like, all right, but it's okay. Like I'm working on these 3 other deals. I'm gonna go bang those out. I'm gonna make that money back, and then I'm gonna refresh. And so
Yeah.
that's just my mindset.
As a deal maker, we've got to focus on that we can make more, right? I think
Yeah.
when as a deal maker, when we stop creating new deals is when we start to like go downhill. We've got to continually put more deals in the pipeline, continually do other things, get people to manage the stuff that's not working. But a true deal maker needs to focus on deal making.
That's so true, because like I remember my first few deals, I was like, wow, I got a deal, and I felt like it was lucky. I'm like, wow, this was lucky. And then I got another lucky deal. Then I got another, and I'm like, it's not luck. It's just
Yeah.
work. It's just what you're good at. It's a skill at a point. And my skill now is I just network with so many people that these deals just come into my lap. Like I got a great deal this week, fell right into my lap, doing my thing. And somebody's like, hey, do you want this subject to deal? Do you want to take over this person's mortgage? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Sprinted over to the house, signed the contract, and I got the deal. But it's like I would and social media has helped me big time with that, where I'm promoting what I'm doing. People
Yeah.
see, people know I buy, and there's not a lot of buyers really in the whole grand scheme of things. There's really not a lot of true buyers out there. And so there's more sellers than
Mhm.
buyers in kind of the underground real estate world. So if you're a buyer and a legit buyer, someone who does the right thing and doesn't screw anybody over,
Yep.
you will get really good opportunities.
So subject to, right?
Mhm.
That just came across your plate. Explain what that is for people who may not understand that.
Subject to is a creative financing. It goes into the creative financing realm. And so basically, if you have a home, and let's just say you can't afford the mortgage anymore, and this happens a lot. People overbuy, or they lose their job, and they say, Jason, look, I can't afford my mortgage anymore. Can I just deed you over the property? You're taking the property over subject to the existing mortgage. And so in this situation, this seller was in distress. They can't make their mortgage payment anymore. So I'm going to give them some money to move to another location. They're going to go rent, and I'm going to take over their mortgage payments, and I'm going to go rent it out to somebody else.
So does the deed swap over to you? Like if you do the property appraiser, it now says your name, or are they
Yeah.
still on it?
So they deed it over. So let's just say the seller's name is Sarah.
Mhm.
Sarah would deed it over to Jason. Okay. But the whole subject to part is that Sarah's mortgage stays the same. So that mortgage stays in Sarah's name, and just the deed is in my name. So the property, I own the property, but the mortgage stays in her name, and I make payments on her behalf.
Okay, cool. So this is such a good scenario for many different reasons. Because so in Sarah's instance, and I'm just painting a picture, and I'll ask a question about it. But if she went to just go sell it, there might not be any equity, so she might have to go to the closing table with capital,
Yes.
right?
That's
And
exactly the situation here.
okay, that's what I assumed. All right. So instead of her going, oh, I could lose the house, I could do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, I could give it back to the bank, I could try to rent it out and try to figure this out and try to cash flow it, which I have no experience and I'm gonna maybe get burnt, or I could get paid to walk away, and this guy's gonna make my mortgage payment.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, this person is not in a good situation. So
Yeah.
they don't have any real options. She bought the house for 650,000, but now the house is really only worth 615,000. And so some people will be like, "Oh, that's not too bad." But then you got to figure in the commissions of the real estate agents. So that's probably another 30,000. So now she's upside down around $60,000, and she doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
So this is a much better option where she could deed the property over to me. I'll take care of it. I will pay the mortgage for her every single month. And then I'm going to give her money to go start over. She's going to go be able, because she doesn't have any money. So I'm going to be able to give her a chunk of change where she could go rent a place for a year, work, reset, save up her money, and then move on to her next step, whatever it is.
Yeah. So as you're building this out, what does exit strategy look like for you on, portfolio kind of stuff, right? You've got 27 properties,
Yeah.
35 years old. At some point you might go, hey, it's time for me to get a
No,
cruise
it's
boat or
funny.
sailboat.
My if I could get a slogan tattooed on me, it would be never sell real estate. I haven't sold one property, and I don't think I ever will. Maybe I will sell some of my smaller ones to upgrade into bigger ones. But you could always refinance and do all these things, but I just buy and hold. That has been my model. I probably will never change off that model. I've seen a lot of wholesalers and flippers. Those guys are all over the place. They're having a great year, then they have no money. It's just so much of a harder business. This business is super safe. It's not like get rich like automatically, but it's get rich for sure over the long run. So I'm just my goal, I'm super open about it, is I want to get to $50,000 a month of net profit cash flow per month. And once I get there, I feel like I could retire. I could retire and I could live off that
If you can't
very healthily.
retire on 50 grand a month, bro,
50 grand a month. That's my goal. And
I think you
and
can do
I am
it.
working my butt off to get to that goal. But
I,
that's just I don't know where it came up with it. I've seen a few other people kind of have similar
yeah,
um aspirations of that, but yeah, I don't want to sell my real estate. What I want to do is give it to my son and have him kind of repeat this business, because that's how you build generational wealth,
yeah,
right? The richest people in this world own massive, massive amounts of real estate. And so I'm just kind of copying that model.
yeah. Jason, this has been great, man. Talking short-term, long-term rentals, and kind of comparing the two. For people in the audience who want to kind of learn more, maybe pick your brain, where could people go to connect with you and do a deal?
So I'm a big Instagram guy, always on Instagram. So it's at J Griggs Real Estate. And to help other people with short-term rentals, I created a course. It's called winwithairbnb.com. And there, I operate in a hard market in Las Vegas and Henderson, but there's so many other markets that are much more easier. So in this course, I really teach you how to identify the market that you want to go after, how to contact the local real estate agent, the property managers, and then how to build out your property, how to set it up, what tools to put inside the house to make it functioning and make it work so you can make some really good money.
Is that winwithairbnb.com?
Winwithairbnb.com.
Cool. And
That's
what does the kind of like paint a picture of what could they expect from the course?
So in if the first part of the course, I'll go over how to pick your market of where you want to do this because they work well in some areas are oversaturated, and some are kind of up and coming. So that's first step. And then I really go into the real estate side of things of what to expect. You're buying this place, but you're going to have to spend money on it
Mhm.
after you buy it. And then how to set up the properties, how to build out the property the right way with what ring camera we use, the Century Lux we use. And then the coolest part about the house is I pick 5 of my properties and I do video walkthrough tours. I spend about 45 minutes in each house, the reason why we use this Century Lock and the reason why we put this luggage thing in this closet, and the reason why we bought these specific sheets. They're not white, they're darker gray, so they don't stain and you could get more use out of them.
Mm.
All these little tips and tricks of how to run the business the right way.
Yeah, because you could have your profit eaten up with little tiny things like dry cleaning sheets or replacing sheets or doing like little tiny things or keys or this or that. So really cool. Jason, thanks for coming on the show. Are there any questions that I should have asked you, bro, that I completely screwed up and did not
Oh,
ask
dude,
you?
I had a blast today. I love doing podcasts. You killed it for me. I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you and the rest of the podcast, and let's do another one soon.
Sounds good. Fellow deal makers in the audience, as always, reach out to the guests and say thank you for sharing their information on the show. You could always find their contact information in the little show notes below. Take a look at their courses, take a look at their programs, take a look at what they're doing, and if it resonates with you, buy it. Find a way to do a deal with them, connect with them. If you have a deal that you'd like to do or talk about on the show, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Bye, everybody.